So we're going to do a little bit of a multitasking video today, if that's okay. I am super busy working on finishing up my dissertation, and then in any amount of free time I have to get a whole bunch of my ear orders done. So I figured we'd work on some ear orders while doing some little Disney chats. And so having said that I am nearing the end of my PhD, working on completing my dissertation, it was really always the kind of dream and goal to finally go back to Disney World once I completed my PhD and fully defended, because it has been a very, very long time since we have been to Walt Disney World, like a full decade. So the last time we were there was December 2011, and I miss it so much because growing up we used to go there every 3 years. So we took trips from 1995 to 2011, spaced out those 3 years. And so now it's been so long since I've been there. So much has changed. Like, I have never used a Magic Band. I have never had to book a fast pass or use my Disney experience. New Fantasyland then was still just totally under construction. And then obviously there's tons of new stuff in all the other parks too. So I'm really dying to be able to get back to Walt Disney World. But the thing that's kind of really put a kink in the plans or ability to do a kind of post-grad celebratory trip there is, of course, the pandemic. There is no way that I would ever travel to Disney World or do any type of vacation until myself and the majority of the population is double vaccinated. So many people who, are traveling to Walt Disney World now, while the pandemic is still, totally not under control, they say, oh, I felt so safe there. It really felt so safe. Felt safer than going to the grocery store. But I really want to emphasize that there is a very big difference between feeling safe and being safe, because the only reason why people feel safe is because you cannot actually see viral particles with your eyes. That would be a totally different story. It's like, oh, I feel safe because, that person there has a mask on and there's plexiglass. But unfortunately, it's, not quite that simple, and that's why things are still so bad. The only way to actually be safe is still, unfortunately, to not be around people. So I definitely will not be going back to Walt Disney World until it is actually safe to do so. And I really don't like the comparison that, oh, it feels safer than going to the grocery store, because the grocery store is a very essential outing, and, you're typically not there too frequently for too long. So that's, let's not compare, visiting the theme parks during a pandemic to the necessary weekly outings. Anyways, that's kind of, my little high horse rant for a bit. So while I work on finishing these ears, I just kind of wanted to, plan, dream, fantasize my Walt Disney World vacation whenever, I can go. Dream out planning where to stay, some of the places that I really want to eat, and then there's so many new attractions and things that I want to do in the parks. So if you have been to Walt Disney World in the past 10 years, hopefully you can also give some good advice about what are some of your, current new favorite things to do there. So let's start off with kind of, planning, what would be the goal dream resort to be able to stay at. And by dream, I mean like realistic dream, not like fantasy dream vacation. But I think I would really like to stay at Caribbean Beach, mainly for the Skyliner access. I think it would be so cool to stay at a Skyliner resort there. The Skyliner looks so cool, and one of the things that I love about Disney World is how totally unique and immersive the transportation is. Like, I absolutely love the monorail. So I don't think Caribbean Beach is a place that I would necessarily, aim to choose to stay at if there wasn't the Skyliner there, but it seems like it would just be so much fun and so cool to have a Skyliner and have access to be able to go to the parks. The Riviera Resort looks nice, but it's definitely very, very expensive, and I like the resorts that are more fully themed and immersive. Like, Riviera looks very nice, but I like, the fact like places like Caribbean Beach or like Port Orleans, you're really immersed and like transported to a place. So I think I would probably most want to be able to stay at Caribbean Beach, mainly for the access to the Skyliner. So, let's imagine we were booked at Caribbean Beach and we're flying in. And I think the nice thing to do is, when you fly in, because you're not going to have a full day there, you can spend the day at Disney Springs. Because again, I've never been to Disney Springs. I've only been to when it was just downtown Disney. There's one thing that I absolutely need to hit up at Disney Springs, and that is the Erin McKenna Bakery, because everything there is vegan and gluten-free. So I probably would just want to buy one of everything there. That means no Gideon's Bakehouse for me, because well, can't eat anything there. So that for me is kind of like the one must hit, actual thing to do in Disney Springs aside from, classic World of Disney. There's so many stores there and there's so many restaurants that it feels overwhelming in terms of like what to even choose. I feel like I'm generally more interested in being able to dine at, other places at the resorts or places in the parks aside from Disney Springs. But it seems like such a big, large attraction in and of itself. I think it'd be really fun to walk around, especially, fun to spend the evening at, go to pin traders. But the only things that I really, really want from Disney Springs are some gluten-free vegan baked goods. So then for the parks, as I said, I have never had to book fast passes, which seems so daunting that you have to plan that so far out in advance, and it seems like it's really hard to maximize your time. I have no idea when fast passes are going to come back and what it's going to be like. But for the parks, I at least go over like what are the attractions that I most absolutely want to hit. So let's start off planning and talking about Animal Kingdom, because I have not actually been to Animal Kingdom since 2009. We actually skipped Animal Kingdom in 2011 to do a little split stay at Universal to do the then new Harry Potter Hogsmeade area. So it has been well over a decade since I've been to Animal Kingdom. And obviously I have to experience Pandora. I have my whole big collection of Pandora pins, which might be a little odd because I have never actually been to or experienced the land, but it makes my little geologist heart happy to see all those beautiful fake rocks. It seems like such an awesome, very needed addition to the parks. And then obviously the top attraction I'd want to do is Flight of Passage because everybody raves about it so much. And it's definitely something where you can watch a ride through of it, but that's not even going to come close to doing it justice. Navi River Journey would obviously be a really nice bonus to be able to do, and I think it's something I really would like to do, although I know it is definitely a short ride. It doesn't have much story to it. But for me, it's something that's totally brand new. But I don't know if it's necessarily something I'd want to waste booking a fast pass on. I'd absolutely have to ride Expedition Everest. I love that roller coaster so much. The theming is just so awesome, and it is just overall such a fun ride. Everest is probably something I'd want to see if I could try and get on multiple times, and also because it's been so long since I've been able to ride it. And then the other thing that I really want to do at Animal Kingdom is ride Dinosaur, because I have never actually ridden it before. When I was younger, they in the Disney hotels would have the kind of rolls of all the Disney footage going from the parks and whatnot, and they would always have, the really scary thing of Dinosaur with the big T-Rex coming out, and it was always a little bit too freaky when I was younger, but I think I'm ready to brave it now. And also I love Indiana Jones at Disneyland, and it's basically the same ride system, so I really want to do Dinosaur because that is something that is old but is still totally new to me. So that kind of covers the attractions that for me would be worthy of booking a fast pass for at Animal Kingdom, but there's also some food at Animal Kingdom that I'm really excited to be able to try. Obviously, I really want to eat at Satuli Canteen in Pandora. The food there just looks like some of the best theme park food around. It seems so awesome and fitting for the land, and it looks really good, and it seems super customizable. It seems much better than the food they have at Galaxy's Edge. Satuli Canteen seems like it really hits it out of the park. And then the one food item that I really want to be able to get at Animal Kingdom are the gluten-free churros that they have at Nomad Lounge. I know I'm kind of harping on the gluten-free foods now, but that's something that's very important. I didn't realize until recently that the churros that they have there just happen to be gluten-free. There's not a separate menu or a special item. It's just anybody who orders the churros there gets fully safe gluten-free churros, and I've never been able to have a gluten-free churro, so it's been a long time since I've been able to have any kind of churro. So I would definitely want to be able to hit up Nomad Lounge. I don't care too much about the other food there, but as long as I get my churros, I'll be happy. Let's move on to the other parks and planning out this little dream vacation. And I think the next most interesting park, I guess in terms of things I want to do, is Hollywood Studios. I'm not the biggest fan of Hollywood Studios as a park as a whole. The park Hollywood Studios doesn't interest me that much, but Hollywood Studios just has so many of the big new e-ticket rides, and also just some classics that I absolutely love and would have to ride. So that's the problem with Hollywood Studios, is that like I want to do almost everything. Like I absolutely love Tower of Terror. And so Tower of Terror is an absolute must. That is totally non-negotiable. I love Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout at California Adventure. And I think that ride is far superior than the tower that they had there. But the original tower where the elevator moves out, oh, it's just so amazing. The theming is so perfect. So I would absolutely have to get on Tower of Terror. And then also there, I really do like Rock and Roller Coaster. I remember the first time I rode it, I was in the front row and I'm like, oh my God, what did I get myself into? But I really like how it's kind of one of the most thrilling roller coasters there. I really like Rock and Roller Coaster also because there's not much else that's really like it. Obviously, California Screamin' is probably the closest thing Disney has in terms of that launch, but that's another one of the old standards that I definitely have to get on again. Then all of Toy Story Land in Hollywood Studios is totally new for me, so like on most people's lists, like Slinky Dog Dash is kind of a must ride. It seems like a really tame coaster, but also just kind of, you know, fun and nice and smooth. It seems to kind of be a gauge of how busy the park is based on how long the line is for Slinky Dog Dash. I remember back in the day when Toy Story Mania was the big hot ride at Hollywood Studios, there was so much strategy about, you know, routes and being able to get there right away and being able to get your fast pass. And it was such a big thing. But now the ride's kind of like in a tier like, you know, if I have the opportunity to ride it again, I'd be really happy, but it's not something that is definitely on the must list. But another thing on the must list at Hollywood Studios is Minnie and Mickey's Runaway Railway. I love that there's more and more rides that have the trackless ride system, and just watching the videos of it, it really does look like that kind of 3D effect, but without using the 3D glasses. It is also something that feels kind of like more like an experience than, you know, opposed to just an attraction or ride. So I know Great Movie Ride definitely had its fans, especially at the end, but I think Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is definitely a great fit in Hollywood Studios. Then of course we can't forget Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Batuu East there. So I am less into Galaxy's Edge in terms of like a must-do because I've already been able to experience it at Disneyland, and it's basically a carbon copy with some minor changes. But the thing that wasn't open when I visited was Rise of the Resistance. It seems so hard now to get a boarding pass to be able to ride Rise of the Resistance. I mean, I do like the fact that it is on both coasts, where, you know, if you can't get it and make it, you know, on a Disney World trip, it's over there on the other coast, which I feel like with Disneyland being locals, it might be a little bit more easier to swing it there. But that's something where if it can happen, that is definitely the one thing that I would really want to do in Galaxy's Edge. Now, in terms of food, Hollywood Studios to me seems among kind of like the most boring places. They don't seem to have like the best food, and they don't even really seem to have that many food options. But the thing that I do love at Hollywood Studios is the sci-fi dine-in. I grew up super close to a drive-in movie theater. My parents didn't really like going because it was a big production to get everybody together, but I'm a sucker for drive-ins and I don't really care about the food there. It's much more so about the experience for me, and it's something that's so unique and immersive. I definitely prefer the experience much over the 50s prime time. Prime time I'd say would have the better food, but I'm not the biggest fan of, you know, audience participation in that sense. So if there was like a restaurant reservation to get at Hollywood Studios, I think it would probably be Sci-Fi Dine-In for me. But I don't know if there's like any other food places that are necessarily ones that I want to hit. Like I said, Galaxy's Edge, the food there is fine, but also now that I cannot eat wheat, there's not really any options that I can have aside from if I'm there, I'm gonna get a blue milk. So I don't know, does anybody have any good Hollywood Studios food recommendations? I know Woody's Lunchbox there is pretty popular, but I don't know how good and interesting all the food fare is. All right, so let's move on to EPCOT next, and then we'll finish off with Magic Kingdom. EPCOT now is so incredibly under construction that it doesn't feel like a full park. I mean, it at least feels more interesting as a park to me than Hollywood Studios does, but it just doesn't seem like there's still that much to do, although there is quite a few new things there for me at EPCOT that I'd want to do. The marquee thing that is open right now is Frozen Ever After. I think I've only ever ridden Maelstrom once, but I would like to be able to ride Frozen for the first time because that would be another fun, full new experience. And I do love the original Frozen movie, although I'll say I didn't like the sequel Frozen 2. Something that's in the would be nice to do category there, but not necessarily racing to be able to get a fast pass for, is Test Track, because I've only ever ridden it when it was in its original iteration in terms of an actual crash test, and not in its current Tron iteration. So it'd be nice to see kind of what the new theming is like. But I have, experienced the ride before, and there is Radiator Springs Racers out at DCA, which is basically the same system, and I'd say maybe a little bit more fun. But some old classics that I really want to hit again, of course, Spaceship Earth. You can't go to Epcot without riding Spaceship Earth. That's something that still feels like true original Epcot to me. And then also, of course, Living with the Land. Like most people, I'm a sucker for that ride. Also because, it feels, true, real Epcot to it. That's kind of really the must-dos for me there. I've ridden Soarin' so many times on both coasts where, it's nice to do if you can, but wouldn't necessarily waste booking a fast pass on, especially now because the Remy's Ratatouille Adventure is going to be opening up soon. That whole expansion of the France area looks really nice. So I know that is going to be such a big new hit in Epcot. Obviously, whenever I go, the ride will already be open at that point. So that'd be something where, it probably would end up being about the top priority because it is the newest of the news. But I almost feel like I more so want to hit things that have already been open that I haven't done, because I feel, future trips I can do anything new. But I'm sure that's going to be super, super popular. Now, Epcot has so many different choices for where to eat, but I don't really know, or, don't really have strong feelings for where I'd really want to make a dining reservation or would really want to eat. We've hit up a number of the pavilions that I like. I know it's not super popular, but I do love the San Angel Inn, mainly just, again, for the ambiance. It's kind of like sci-fi dine-in, where you don't so much care about the food as it's kind of like as much of the experience about it. I think is it Sunshine Seasons in the Land Pavilion, that's kind of always an available staple, but I think it'd be nice to, see what is unique at any of the countries and hit them up. The thing with Epcot now is that it seems like there is always a festival going on. I don't know if I've been to Epcot during any of the food festivals. Festival of the Arts seems like the most intriguing and interesting festival for me. But again, going back to the gluten-free stuff, Disney really doesn't have that many good offerings during the food festivals. So they're definitely less interesting when you really can't eat the stuff there. So then finally, let's kind of plan and dream about our time at Magic Kingdom. I love Magic Kingdom, but I feel like there's less pressure to do stuff there because Disneyland is so great, and Disneyland generally has the superior versions of all of the shared rides that they have at Magic Kingdom. Like the Pirates there is amazing, Space Mountain's amazing at Disneyland. I even love Big Thunder with all the dynamite there. The one shared thing that Walt Disney World definitely does do better is Splash Mountain. Now the attraction is still open. They haven't yet closed it for refurb, but obviously it's going to be under refurb for quite a while since we can now, strip free of everything related to Song of the South, and then we get our nice lovely Princess and the Frog theme. But the log flumes are superior there because they're side by side, so you don't get the rollover. The ride there is longer. So I'd just be excited to be on a log flume again. It'd be even better if it's, already switched over to the Princess and the Frog theme, although my guess is it's probably going to be down for quite a while. So I'd say the kind of biggest main ticket item, or like first fast pass you'd want to book for Magic Kingdom, is probably Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, again because it is brand new for me. I've never ridden it. It's crazy how long the lines for Mine Train still are, and it's been open and not necessarily new for a really long time. It doesn't seem like the greatest or, the coolest of all the coasters. So it's really enticing that it's something that's totally new and that was just, some construction and a lot of dirt last time I was there. Now, the People Mover is still closed at Disney World. It is still under refurbishment, or they're fixing it up, but I will definitely be riding along the People Mover all day long. I'm not somebody who thinks that the People Mover is the best attraction at Magic Kingdom or Disney World because you can't really say that, but it is something that is amazing and so unique, especially because the Disneyland one has been, not operational and, very structurally broken for a long time. And it's something that feels really true to Tomorrowland. It gives a lot of kinetic energy, and it's something that's like a really nice, relaxing break to do. Then also staying in Tomorrowland, you'd have to do Carousel of Progress. That is such a classic standard, and I feel like that's something that's a little bit easier to get on because not everybody is rushing and racing to it. But I know Tomorrowland is probably going to get extra crazy whenever Tron opens. It'll be interesting to see how it is having two big, Space Mountain and Tron roller coasters right next to each other. So if Tron is open when I go there, that might end up being like the top thing I want to try and do and get a fast pass for. But I'm trying to think about like more Magic Kingdom attractions, and really I have gotten and can get my fix of them over at Disneyland. So I feel like Magic Kingdom is kind of like the least pressure of the park, and you can kind of just go in and enjoy it. Whereas I feel like Hollywood Studios is the most high stakes. Like there's not that many rides there, but every single one you want to be able to ride. Magic Kingdom also doesn't have that many interesting food options. I'm going to continue my theme of ambiance over food, and I also do love Cosmic Ray Starlight Cafe. Sunny Eclipse is an icon there, but thankfully you don't have to eat there to be able to go in and enjoy him, so I'll at least have to say hi to him. I've heard good things about Jungle Skipper Canteen, which I think is new, at least in the time since I've been there. It seems to have kind of more interesting type fare. But I don't know, like what is your kind of go-to stuff at Magic Kingdom? Actually, I just thought of the one other place I'd really like to eat there, which is Liberty Tree Tavern. We did eat there quite a bit growing up. Those were like a really big special character meals. And it's something that I also have kind of like fond memories and attachments for. Okay, I also totally forgot about Be Our Guest restaurant. How did I forget? Like that is, the big hot ticket for dining in Magic Kingdom. That's another thing where it seems like such an experience, but the food, and especially at some of the meals, is so expensive. But I think I'd say if I could only make one dining reservation in Magic Kingdom, it probably would have to Be Our Guest to just be able to experience it one time. So then the only other thing to kind of really, dream and plan out is related to nighttime entertainment, which they don't have any of at any of the parks due to the current circumstances. Any of the dessert parties that they have and offer for those things are so expensive. They're so expensive, and especially with food options, I don't think would really be worth it. But whenever Happily Ever After comes back, that is an absolute must-do. I have to see Happily Ever After. So that is definitely non-negotiable. Epcot's gonna have their whole new nighttime show, so that'll definitely be a must-do in terms of nighttime entertainment. I'm not too interested in any of the nighttime stuff at Hollywood Studios, especially like since having experienced Fantasmic at Disneyland in that setting, and I have seen it before at Hollywood Studios where that's not anything that I really have to worry about doing. And then Animal Kingdom, it seems like they might have just totally axed Rivers of Light. I don't know if they're going to be bringing it back in any iteration. In any case, it never seemed to be super, super popular or kind of, a must-do experience. I feel like Animal Kingdom is fine. I'm fine with Animal Kingdom not being like a late night park. As long as it's dark enough where I can see a little bit of the bioluminescence in Pandora, I'll be fine with that. So I've been rambling on for a very long time, but thank you for indulging me and just fantasizing and dreaming and planning about finally getting back to Walt Disney World someday. So there's a lot of stuff that's new there over the last decade that I can't wait to try out. I'm not looking forward to the prospect of having to book fast passes and be so detailed and plan everything out in advance, but I can't wait to get back to Disney World. I know my dad is also dying to get back to Walt Disney World, so I'm really hoping that everybody can get vaccinated soon and then things can actually be safe to go. But like I said, if you have been to Walt Disney World within the last decade, let me know what are some of your favorite restaurants or resorts or attractions to hit up. How do you go about planning it? Also, just a note, if anybody is still watching at the end of this video, that I'm probably going to have to switch around the upload schedule on my channel for a bit. I think I'm probably just going to uploading sometime on the weekends because that's going to be easiest for me. because like the next 2 months are going to be pretty solid and heavy working on the dissertation, but I still love doing these videos, and hopefully I'll still be able to get out at least like one a week. But thanks for watching.